Keep your hands and head inside the vehicle at all times. Buckle your seatbelts, check your mirrors, sit on back and relax. It's lights out and away we go for the Tall and Short of It podcast. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got a good episode coming to you guys tonight. We have a little preview of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at the Jeddah circuit, new circuit for the F1 calendar this year. We've got some different esports topics that we want to hit as we're going through, a little off the vein of League of Legends, but might mention that here and there. And then some CEDH Magic the Gathering games that Justin was able to get in over the weekend. Justin, how are you doing this week, man?
I'm doing really well. Sounds like we got a good show lined up. Excited to get into these topics. We got some Halo, some CSGO shenanigans. But yeah, I'm doing well on this evening. Good to see you. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good. It's been a little bit of a weird week. We've coming off the Thanksgiving holiday and everything. This past weekend, actually, on unfortunate news, Colleen's mom fell and broke her shoulder, so she is currently recovering. She was trying to do a nice deed for her neighbor and help them out, and took a fall. So she's going to be recovering for a bit, which is a bummer, but we were able to take over some food. We're planning to cook up some like casserole and something like that to give some more long-term meals while she's unable to use one of her hands as well.
Yeah, that's actually a really handy gift. That's very thoughtful.
Yeah, they Colleen's sister-in-law had initially, and we were like talking about it, but her sister-in-law like sent out a thing to a bunch of people about setting up kind of I guess they call it like a meal chain or something like that. I don't think as many people are like actually doing it there's like an app or a website or something, but like people have been helping out, cooking, doing stuff like that. So definitely a bummer after the holiday, but something that we'll be helping out with periodically, and also hopefully she'll be feeling better before we know it.
That's really fun.
But on a little,
I have a broken shoulder, but that you guys are able to help out. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice that we're in a position where we're close enough to be able to help with some of the little things like that and all. On a slightly more entertaining note, though, I've got a funny story from work today, and it caught me very off guard. So I was like getting towards the end of my day, just wrapping up some stuff in the office and all. And there was this guy who was in the gym, and he's like new. I don't know him. The girl who I work with doesn't know him. She had just like met him that day when he had gotten his ID card or whatever. He's like in the gym with his own speaker, just like bumping music and making like TikTok dances in the corner. And he's like a mid-20s probably guy. And we're just like, went in and had to be like, hey, do you mind like lowering the music? It's just a little loud. Like we were hearing it through two closed doors. So imagining being inside the gym trying to work out with him doing this, I was like, we were both like, we'd probably be losing our minds a little bit.
And just to stop you, the TikTok songs aren't like, it's not like it's playing the full song. You're just like getting like the little clip of it, right?
Yeah. And so it was just brutal. Like,
okay, the
ones like at first we thought it was like a group of like guys just like working out or whatever. And we realized that it's just this one guy who had the speaker and everything. But for earlier on, before we like went in and talked to him, it was just the same thing looping again and again, kind of. And it sounded like it was like more of a full song, but then it would be like, it was like the never ending song.
Gotcha.
So we're sitting there and we're like in the office and everything. He's like turned down the music. He was real cool about it. He comes out, like knocks on the door. And he's like, hey, can one of you guys help me out for a minute? Would you mind like filming something for me? He's got like an iPad out and everything. And he like walked out of the gym with like no shirt on. And the dude's like pretty, like he's chiseled, like he definitely is like getting good workouts in. But I'm like, you know what? Sure. Hey man, no problem. He's like, all right, I'm going to walk down these stairs that are right here and then like walk into the gym and like do a couple little exercises real quick. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's making, I don't know, fitness thing or whatever. So I'm like, oh, do you want me to prop the door open? I prop the door open for him so he doesn't have to swipe his ID to like go in and mess up the video. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna walk down the stairs, walk in, do a couple things. He's like, I want to keep the video like under a minute or so. I'm like, cool, sounds good. So he goes up to the top of the steps and all. I like get ready to film with the iPad. And I'm like, all right, give me a countdown. He's like, 3, 2, 1, go. I hit go. And he jumps into a handstand, walks down down one way and then back the other way down these steps on his hands, into the gym on his hands, as like this lady comes in the door behind me and kind of like is like, what is going on? And like stops. And I'm just sitting there with the iPad, like a little too in shock of like, I didn't know what to expect. So I just like kept the camera rolling.
There you go.
So
first rule, man, just keep the camera rolling.
Walks in on his hands, walks over those little like stackable things that you can do like step ups on.
Yeah.
Onto an inclined like crunch thing, rolls onto the crunch thing, puts his legs in it, does a full like sit up, rolls back, goes backwards up over his head into a full handstand backwards, and then like goes down to his feet and stands up. And I stop recording and I was just like, here you go, man. Here's your iPad back. He's like, thanks, man. He like starts, so, oh yeah, this is perfect. I'm like, all right, bye. It caught me so off guard. And like we told like the girl who was with me in the office, like videoed, there's like security cameras that you can see the main door. And so she was videoing this guy. And, like, you just see me standing there with the thing, and then all of a sudden this guy just coming down the stairs on his hands. And
dude, you speed that up, dim the lights. I bet you can make that pretty spooky.
Our regional manager is like, yeah, we can't have that video go anywhere. She's like, that's not safe. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I had no idea what to expect. The other girl was even like, yeah, I heard him. He said he was just going to walk down the stairs and into the gym. I thought it was going to be like a little like YouTube intro or something like that. And like for his,
dude,
it was interesting, but
I mean, you got to give props to the guy for being able to do that, but that's sort of like great, man, like you beat your own little obstacle course or whatever.
It was like wild, but I mean also very, very physically impressive. I don't think I could walk more than like 5 steps on my hands normally, and he went down a flight of stairs and like, but nonetheless it was bizarre. It was one of the weirder things that has just like happened to me in life, let alone it just like in work. It was,
and then for corporate to not be happy about it, that's even funnier.
Not really corporate. It won't go all the way up the chain. It kind of stopped at the lady who's like right above me right now, and she's like, yeah, this can't go anywhere. And we're like,
so what do you do? Like, do you go talk to the guy? Do you go find him?
No, we just let it go. Like, we're gonna just leave it be, and like if he asks for something like that again, I'm gonna just have to be like, hey man, like you need to tell me what you're planning, because if it's like last time, like it's just a safety issue, unfortunately. And, like we can't do that. So but so yeah, we're just gonna like handle it in that kind of way where we're like, not again. Like, happened once, we didn't know what was going on, not gonna be a part of this again. So it was,
that guy's definitely a stunt guy in training. He's trying to put his reel together.
It was very impressive. Like, so I've seen some different crazy calisthenics, I think that's what they're called, and stuff like that, with people
Right.
doing body weight like exercises, lifting themselves off the ground and whatnot. But that was one of
Right.
the more interesting ones. So
You were for a minute and a half. You were a director of photography. That's fun.
front row seat. It
Front row
was
seat. That's
it
epic.
was hilarious. So I wanted to like mention that because I thought you'd get a little entertainment out of that
Yeah, that's
story. But
fun. I love that guy.
yeah,
Hands on the stairs guy.
super cool dude though, or like super
Sure.
nice dude. I don't know,
Sure.
cool, weird, whatever, but nice guy.
Yeah. He was the hero of the gym that day.
Yeah. So, but
Man.
getting into my rose, thorn, and seed for the week and everything, and moving
Yeah.
along. My rose was just pretty much that the holidays like were really nice. First holiday with me and Colleen like being together and doing stuff with our families. So it was nice going from like kind of a more casual environment with my family, just like 6 people, to like 15 to 20 at her family's where everyone's like there's like a couple little kids running around and everyone's talking all over the house and like having like everyone's just bouncing room to room to room, chatting it
Right.
up with everyone and all.
Right.
So it was fun seeing like the different dynamics and all,
Hell
and
yeah.
cool kind of hanging out. For my thorn though this week, the past 2 nights I've just had like I've not been able to fall asleep, which is
Hmm.
like annoying because then you get to well for me I get to like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm like I have to be awake in like 5.5 hours, and then like both nights it crept up on like 3 a.m. before I was probably falling asleep.
Damn.
And so now, like currently, I think due to that, I feel just like slightly off, like a
Mm-hmm.
little anxiety, a little like just not quite right with my body, and I'm pretty sure it's just due to the like slight lack of sleep and whatnot. So hopefully tonight will be a little bit better with that, but it was just weird. I didn't have any particular reason, I guess, to point to and be like, yeah, that's why I can't sleep or something like that. No coffee at 9 p.m. or whatever.
Do you have a bedtime routine?
Um,
Or
yeah,
is it
kind of. I mean, I
okay?
I'll brush my I basically like brush my teeth, get myself a big bottle of water, put it next to the bed, hop in, watch a couple like a little bit of TV. Like I'll hop into bed like an hour or so before I'm planning to fall asleep. And just like watch some shows for a little bit and then just kind of knock out, and it's usually
Okay.
not like any issue. Like I typically fall asleep with like background noise,
And then
like
do you like
TV or
set the
whatever.
sleep timer, or do you
Yeah,
wake up with it on?
usually, or like I mean, I with Netflix it like automatically does it. It'll
Sure, it
stop it
just puts it
after a
on
couple.
that pause
Yeah, it's
screen.
like
Yeah.
I think like and when my TV doesn't have anything going on it for a little bit, it'll just shut itself off.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
like I or put itself to sleep, so I don't have to worry about that. So like occasionally I'll be watching something on like Hulu or on HBO or something, and I'll wake up in the morning and it's like still going, and I'm like, why don't they have that thing that stops it? I've just run through a full season of a show and I was asleep the whole time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's super not helpful because then you're like, where did I stop? But yeah, that's kind of lame. Well, I guess what I'm asking is it's just helpful to have like a a little routine to help you sleep. The one
yeah, I
thing,
generally do the same kind of stuff, but I don't have like a
sure,
specific like I guess like very specific routine. I just generally am relatively routine with the way I go about it.
sure. Hmm. Well, I'm sorry you've been lacking sleep because yeah, that is super important, man.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be all right. I've got a long weekend. I took off an extra day, I had just days to take off for the end of the year before I lose them. So I'm taking off work on Friday to just give myself a long weekend to like use a day.
Nice.
So that'll be good, and I'll probably catch up a little bit on that, and yeah, just have a pretty chill, relaxing day. So
Very
hopefully
cool.
I'll catch up a little bit tonight and be good. But my seed is more pod related, and just as we are like coming up to the end of the actual year, along with the end of the F1 calendar. I was just thinking about how it's like really cool that we have gone through like a full season of F1 like coverage and everything, talking about all the races, doing race companions, like just being really like in it for the entire season. So that's really cool, and kind of the seed part of that is just looking into continuing that and going into next year, being able to carry over and kind of have another full season, like with more knowledge under our belts, more preparation, and kind of knowing our flow and how we want to do things with that and all. So just kind of looking ahead with that for the pod and seeing kind of that. Not trying to rush through this time, but like looking forward to when we're able to get rolling for a new season and all, with a full season under our belt, and everything. So
Yeah, that is. I've been thinking a lot about that as well, where there were a lot of times this year looking back where we like have never been to the track before. We didn't see it on like the previous year. The worldwide pandemic was can't like had races canceled and rescheduled and this and that. So it's exactly like you said, it's fun to have a full season under our belts and then have all of that data, like firsthand experience too, where I'm sure there are things, as where I was getting with that, is I'm sure there are things that we learned that until we come back around to that track and that day and that whatever, we may not even realize that we've learned the thing until we're in it and talking about it. But yeah, it's been super fun to learn about the sport and be like in it for a full season.
yeah, it kind of like clicked in my mind, like because I saw a tweet from the Haas F1 team that on Monday was actually like exactly a year from when Roman Grosjean had his really bad crash and all, and it
Yeah.
just made it. I was like thinking about how I was just like sitting in my living room watching F1 on ESPN on like a Sunday at 9 a.m., just chilling there, hanging, watching it. And I'm like, man, we've like come a long way since that, and like talking about it on the
Oh
podcast and
yeah.
all. So it's like thinking about it, and like that kind of like brought it to mind a little bit. I'm like, oh man, that's been like a full year. That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
so yeah, just looking forward to that and kind of continuing onward and all. But how about you, man? How was your week? What are you thinking with your rose, thorn, and seed? What's been going on?
My week has been pretty good. I think my rose is actually the same as yours. I'm looking forward to a long weekend ahead. Very much looking forward to the race that we have coming up. For a good number of reasons, we can get into it later. But yeah, just happy about the long weekend coming up. Um, we'll have hopefully some just good time to relax because like you had said, the holidays are always busy and whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my rose. My thorn, kind of similar to what we were just talking about with your seed, is that the season's almost over and it's been what's fun is it's been
Hmm. Do we still have our other mans in here?
Yeah, we do. It looks like they're both in here. That's okay. So we
Okay,
just had Craig leave. That's all right. We're good.
cool.
Um, yeah, but it's been such a blast doing all the races and just like being so tuned in over the weekends, that I'm really gonna miss that element. Um, so that's kind of my thorn. It has been such a highlight of the weekend that it truly will be missed. And then moving into my seed, I have been like wanting to clean or tidy or like get rid of. I feel like I'm spring cleaning all of the time. Um, Ever since we moved here, starting the process of getting rid of things at the other apartment,
Mm.
it is it has been just like my mind is just constantly thinking of like what don't we need? Can we get rid of this? Like what things are really high value? What things are very useful? Um, I just did another spurt of going through cards that I had, seeing what cards I had multiples of. Can I build them into decks? Do I have sleeves? On like Sunday and Monday, I think I put like 4 75 card decks together that
Damn.
have, like full play sets of cards. Play sets being you can have four of any one card in those decks. And then 15 cards for a sideboard that in best of threes you can like take cards out, put these ones in, like, oh, they're not playing creatures, I can take out these like kill creature spells, put in like destroy artifact spells, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So just tidying that, just tidying the apartment, just getting rid of things, and that's where my head has been, is just like what can I get rid of, what can I tidy up. And it's not just like with hobbies or my music or whatever, it's creeping into everywhere, dude.
I think
Everything's gonna be tidy.
that's a good thing. I think that, I mean, it kind of loops back to some of the stuff that we've talked about. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the podcast, but that you and I have talked about with you listening to like some of the different Jordan Peterson like lectures and things like that. Like
Hmm.
if you like do the small things and make your like direct area just like better for you, then that will just compound on itself outward, butterfly
It can,
effect,
yeah.
whatnot, to be able to, like, if you're in a better state because your space is in a better state, then like you're gonna act differently and better and all of that, like outwardly, and like typically more positively. And also, yeah, that's something I'm good and bad at. Like, I know when to, or like, when there are opportunities to do that kind of paring down, like moving and things like that, I'm like really good at it and like getting rid of things as I'm like packing stuff up. But just like over time of like staying in one space, it's so easy to just get little bits of clutter here and there that just kind of
Hmm.
like build up. And I don't like that side of it, but it just kind of happens sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
that's awesome that you're kind of on that and just keeping stuff in good shape.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know at what point it becomes a disease, but hopefully I can catch it before it gets to that point. Like if I start like shaving my dog, like, oh well, this hair is just all unorganized, and then like I just burn all the books. Like, oh, this shelf can never be organized enough. Just get rid of it. That's
This one page of this book is wrinkled, so I have to throw the whole book out.
exactly. That's
Um,
when you need to lock me up.
yeah, I think that would be like a diagnosable thing that you probably would have manifested itself. It sounds like you're just generally like would have already manifested itself, based on how that works. But I think in general, it sounds like you're just trying to be tidy, be neater, like only keep things you need, and like that's not a bad thing. So, but I'll keep an
Using
eye
the
out.
like thank you, yeah, keep an eye out. If I start going crazy, let me know. But yeah, just using the tiny house mentality, dude, that's all. But
Yeah.
that is my rose thorn and seed for the week, man. You want to get into the meat of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just as a precursor before we get into the talk about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at the Jeddah circuit, just wanted to do a brief little mention of Sir Frank Williams, the founder of Williams Racing, who just passed away on Monday. So definitely, it's sad. I know he's been around F1 and has been, like, even up until very recently, had been very actively around the F1 community. There's some videos of, like, from a year ago or 2 years ago of Lewis Hamilton taking him for a spin in one of the safety cars, like around the track, in one of the Mercedes safety cars and all. And so, like, hopping on Twitter, like in the morning on Monday, and just my entire feed basically being, or it may have been Sunday, nonetheless, my entire feed was just like F1 post after post after post and retweets and all this stuff, just like an outpouring of appreciation from the F1 community. I don't know as much about Frank Williams, but I just wanted to mention that because it was a sad moment for the F1 world, just like as I could clearly see from all the support and kind of appreciation that was going out about that. So just wanted to mention that briefly before we get into the race talk for this week. So
Yeah, no, I think I think that's a great thing to bring up. Yeah, and like we had just said, we haven't been close to F1 for that long, so obviously, his influence on us would not have been that great. However, it is good to recognize the loss of a great individual within a sport and within like an industry or whatever. So yeah, it seems like the sport has lost one of the great talents. I was listening to Damon Hill talk about, he had some thoughts about him.
well,
And
and Damon
the
had raced for William. Was he a Williams driver when he won
He
his world
was, and
championship?
it
Yeah,
was, and it was Frank Williams that gave him his drive.
gotcha.
So he knew, like they knew each other intimately, and I think of the many great things that he said about Sir Frank Williams, the one thing that stuck out to me most was that him and his wife, I believe her name is Ginny, they literally went into debt to keep the team going and build it into the winning machine that it was. And I think that spoke to the the spirit of individuals around motor racing where they'll do anything to have a drive, get a drive, be near a drive, be near racers, be at a track, doing whatever. Where he had such an influence that his family was even on board, and that was, I think, the thing that stuck out in the many kind words that Damon Hill had for him. A gentleman that I know nothing about, but it's clear has had a great impact on many of individuals in the sport.
Yeah, super visible. And I mean, even up until last year, Williams Racing was being run by his daughter, Claire Williams, before they sold the company and everything. So being the last also like family owned F1 team, like it's hard to even imagine like a family owned like F1 team in the
Right, right.
up until 2020. That's pretty incredible.
Well, I
So
guess that would have been the part of the storyline that I missed with Claire was, oh, okay, that was this guy's daughter. Oh, that makes sense. No wonder it was such a thing that she left because she was the last actual Williams.
right. Yeah.
Dude, I'm fucking clueless, brother.
Hey, sometimes it takes just being around it and hearing more things. Like that's something that if you weren't like in the know at the time, like wouldn't have clicked until you kind of hear
Right.
about it down the line. So yeah, definitely a big loss for the community. So hopefully his family and all is doing okay and everything. But definitely a sad note for the F1 community.
Sure.
Going into the race weekend coming up here and everything, I'm sure there will be plenty of conversation and hopefully some good memoriam type things for him that they'll put on. I'm sure they'll do a good job with that. So
Spoiler alert, I think Williams has a lot of very cool things planned for the weekend.
good. Well, I'm looking forward to it for sure. So that'll be awesome to see what they do, kind of as a remembrance of their founder and a great person in the community. But getting into our F1 talk for this week with the Jeddah circuit at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Justin, what are you looking forward to with this race? It's a new track, never been to before. This is the first F1 race. There's no, all the circuit stats. There's no lap record. It's a very unique style of track just by the look of it. So what comes to mind?
Overall, the first thing that comes to mind is, again, another note of how clueless I am. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but I don't know if it was just in private conversations or on the podcast, but I kept referring to the Miami Grand Prix and the Jeddah Grand Prix as the same thing. I thought the name of the track in Miami was going to be whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you've been listening, yes, I know I've got those things confused. I know the difference now. So that's the one thing that comes to mind. The other thing I'm super excited for is the layout of the track. It seems super fucking unique in the way that it's just kind of a line down and it loops and just straight back. I think that's pretty crazy. It gives me big Monaco vibes, big Baku vibes, but it's even tighter than those. So I think I have more trepidation for the weekend than anything. I'm worried we're gonna see a bunch of rubber into the walls.
Yeah, I guess we'll kind of see how that works out. It was funny. I've been watching a bit more of just race highlight video, the F1 race highlights from past years. Keep popping
so
up
good.
into my YouTube recommended, and so I just watch them every time because it's why not spend 10 minutes checking out a race from the past 4 to 6 years and everything. But I was just watching the Japan Grand Prix from 2018 while I was eating dinner and everything, watching the race highlights and all, and it was kind of wild to see how much contact and stuff like that was going on in that season. There was a lot going on, and it was interesting in my mind that this year we really haven't, there's little tussles here and there and everything, but I feel there's been so much focus on the front of the pack throughout the year that a lot of those midfield little scraps have not gotten as much airtime and everything. So it's kind of cool watching that, but I wouldn't be surprised with this circuit, like you said, being pretty tight and all. A lot of the turns are tight. You're going from really high speed straightaways into some tighter turns and some different kind of back and forth and everything, where one guy might have the inside on one turn, but the other guy's going to have the inside on the next, and there's a lot of little back and forth that could happen there. It'll just be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out, because it looks 3 DRS zones on the track. It's going to be pretty fast, it looks like. So
many overtaking, well, at least 3 overtaking opportunities. We'll see if there are more. It reminds me of, is that at Silverstone that has the Maggots, Beckett's, Cops?
Yeah.
It feels like a whole track of just that.
Yeah.
Which will be super, super intense. The track designer they believe, or I guess I'll just say part of the track production team. I'm not sure what the individual's title would have been, but they were talking that it appears to be one of the fastest circuits. I think he said average of 254 kilometers per hour, 250, something like that. So that sounds crazy to me. Like that's the top average speed. So that's like what they'll be doing the whole like a lot of the time, and then other than braking zones or whatever, and then that's like an interesting element. The most, I think there's 27 turns or something,
Something like
and it's
that.
all like these little guys, obviously. But yeah, I think the design of the track itself is exciting to say the least, and hopefully it'll make for some good racing. Although we know people talk historically about like places like Monaco where it has tough overtaking positions, but I don't think does Monaco have DRS zones?
Um,
Can you DRS on that tunnel straight?
you might.
That may be like that's a dumb question, but
Yes, there are for DRS. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a single DRS zone right after turn 16 of the track, which I think is right before the tunnel straight. So
before the tunnel straight is the complex turns.
No. So it's right before pool. You get the DRS detection zone.
Gotcha.
Sorry, right after pool, and then you have the DRS coming back around. It looks like. I just briefly pulled up the track, but it looks like that is the one coming down kind of the main straight. But I think that the reason that you may have been confusing the Miami track with the Jeddah track in Saudi Arabia is because they have a lot of similarities in their style. It's almost like if you take the Jeddah circuit and just like turn it into like a little U almost with like an inside little spot. Like there's a lot of like those little weaving turns like we're seeing on the Jeddah track. A couple of really long straights, some really long like sweeping fast turns and everything as well. So I think it's going to be like I think they may have made a comparison when they first released the F1 track in Miami that they were like, oh, there are a lot of similarities between these two tracks, even though we had not seen Jeddah actually raced on as of yet.
And I may have just like latched on to like a comparison.
That's what I'm thinking probably happened because
I
pulled up the Miami like circuit like track and everything, and they look very like similar in a lot of areas.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
I don't feel terrible about it then.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much. I'm actually gonna real quick while we're doing this, I'm just gonna send you a quick picture of it in the in our chat here, so you can kind of compare. But if that'll go through, boom, yeah. So that way you can look at that and be like, okay.
Yeah, I can totally see how I would have fucked that up.
Yeah. So just in general, though, I think it's going to be interesting. Saudi Arabia, I haven't looked at what the weather is kind of looking like, but it is in a very warm, it's like right by the equator, very warm area of the world. And with these long sweeping turns and the back and forth and everything, I'm really looking forward to seeing how tire strategies develop through like from Friday into Saturday into the race on Sunday. Wouldn't be surprised to see some of the teams get a couple of the reserve drivers out there on FP1 to do some long stints on some of the different tires and everything to get some data. I would not be surprised.
Love that data, dude.
Well, I just wouldn't be surprised to see some interesting tire stuff on Sunday either, because we've We saw at the last race there in Qatar that the long sweeping turns really did have some effect on the tire wear, some of those front lefts and everything getting worn out and all. So it'll be a potentially similar kind of situation here in terms of weather, tire wear, and everything with these fast turns that you have throughout the course. So I would not be surprised to see that come into play. Maybe see some of those midfield teams like the Alpines, like the Aston Martins potentially try and pull off like a one stopper to see and if maybe that will work out better if other teams go for a two-stop strategy, and just kind of see some of the shakeup. It might be I would not be surprised to see a race weekend with a lot of different strategies for that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I think it was a good point to bring up Qatar as well because we saw a couple of drivers doing different things on the same tires where like you mentioned the front left's going for both of the Williams drivers plus Valtteri I think it was.
yep.
And then there were drivers who did one stops on the hards and they even had like not great finishes but decent finishes.
Well,
So there
didn't Alonso do a one stop?
I'm pretty sure he did. So I
Yeah,
might even
that
call that a great finish.
yeah. So I'm
Okay, fair
pretty
enough.
yeah, I'm pretty certain he did a one stop if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a couple weeks, but I
But I don't
should
think he was the only one, is what I'm getting at. So there's definite room for variation in the tire strategies,
yeah.
and it's clear that not all of the teams have all of the information.
Mhm.
There's some tracks, and obviously, like it seems like the longer a track has been around, the more data they have, so they can say like, "Oh yeah, it's guaranteed going to be that." Like they can get the ranges to a smaller amount,
Yeah.
but it was clear, and even a Mercedes powered team with Williams, they tried to push them. They were racing too hard during the race, and they caught the punctures. So I think what's exciting about these new tracks is not that I want to see drivers take punctures, but I think it's fun where it truly is these monkey wrenches in the plans of these racing institutions that otherwise would have a large set of data to go on and just fucking knock out a weekend. We have more of an opportunity for parity at what is proving to be quite an exciting year.
Yeah, and I think that for myself, just in terms of that same kind of like along the same vein, I really enjoy watching, and I think that it is a very what I'm trying to find the right word. I think it shows how good a team can be to make adjustments during the race weekend. Just like in a best of five in League of Legends, watching teams, maybe you get your shit kicked in on the first map of a best of five in League of Legends, seeing how the team bounces back, recovers, changes up their draft strategy, doesn't change up their draft strategy, things like that, to carry them through the rest of that best of five during a race weekend. I mean, last race, we saw these teams. We saw Williams getting punctures. We saw Mercedes get the puncture with Valtteri. And Red Bull goes, you know what? We're not going to risk it with Sergio and send him to the end on a one stop like we think we might be able to or thought we might be able to. He's been pushing the tires hard. We'll bring him in for another stop and just like make sure that we're good. And so seeing those on the fly changes, we'll probably see some this weekend. We'll probably see a mix of that with people figuring out like thinking whether the undercut will work. Maybe the undercut won't work in some instances, depending on how that works out. So it'll be very, very interesting to see, and a lot of fun. And I think that really does like show another aspect of the quality of these teams in F1 to make those changes and kind of figure out solutions to unforeseen problems like in the moment. So
Yeah, and it's interesting to see even the top teams deferring to each other, where Red Bull made the choice, I think, to pit Max first, and Mercedes just answered right away. And I know we touched on it the last time, but where it was Mercedes was happy to be wrong with Red Bull in that scenario and just like go with like what might have been the safer tire strategy, maybe not the fastest tire strategy. So we'll see. We'll see if similar things come into play for this weekend.
yeah, absolutely. And so very exciting, of course, like as we always have talked about and mentioned and everything throughout this season. The race for the title is super close at the top. 8 points different in between Max and Lewis from P1 to P2 in that driver's standings. 5 points between Mercedes and Red Bull in the constructors. I'm really hoping that any bumps and everything going along through the tight turns and all don't take out people and kind of make the decision for who's going to win the title just based on one thing.
Right.
So hopefully we get a good race weekend with minimal issues and incidents that are going to. It's like at the end of an NFL or football game. Like I never want to see the referee call a penalty that's going to be the deciding factor. I would hate to see, and we've historically in F1 have had instances where people have crashed out in one of the last couple races and that just ends the title talk right there. It gives it one way or the other. And I'd rather see it happen in the actual speed and skill of these drivers and not from some mistake that takes someone out. So hopefully we have a good fun racing weekend and some more excitement leading into the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There has been some preparation done for the old fate intervening and just saying, "Nope, you're tired. This wall," and taking somebody out of contention. But here's the other interesting thing: is even okay. So time doesn't care about the end of a championship, right? Time does not care at all in the sense that if the race goes in a way where we're still locked in like a tight thing and then we go to Abu Dhabi and like whoever wins on that day like takes both championships, there's an element where, and this is why I say time doesn't care, because here we were at the top of the show talking about like, oh, we put this whole season in and oh, didn't we learn so much, and oh, like we have all this data. None of it matters.
Yeah.
None of it's going to matter because it's all just going to be down to like what happens on the day. It's effectively a best of one at that point.
Yeah, the
all
season
the
could end this week. It might not, but it could just be like well, not end. Obviously, there's still one more race, but like the title fight could end. I mean, we've seen it with Mercedes in the past couple years, where Mercedes just like wins the constructors with like 5 races to go or something like that.
Right.
So.
Right. But I think it'll be fascinating if it does come down to a best of one there in Abu Dhabi. I think that would be like what the script writers are aiming for, you might say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is the closest title fight that we've had in a few years. Obviously, the one between 2 Mercedes drivers is a little less exciting than when there's 2 teams involved or more.
Right.
So it's our most exciting season that we've had. It's been a really exciting season. There's been fireworks. There's been some anger. There's been some excitement, and all. It's been just a really good season throughout. So looking forward to this weekend and everything, and having a really good time watching this race and kind of getting to see the new track and feel it out and just have a good time. So
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I second that on all accounts, good sir.
yeah. So I guess before we move along to some of the other talk, did you have any other notes or points of interest that you were thinking as we were going through?
No, it's tough with a track that we don't have any data on. Like literally, the only thing I've seen are, and they wouldn't even be from teams. It would just be from just people. Or I'm pretty sure it's from F1 2021. I think they have Jeddah in F1 2021.
They
So
do, yeah.
I've only seen like basically like simulator footage of the game. So it's not of the game, of the track in the game, from the game.
Yeah.
So I just say that to say it's tough to have much to go on. Obviously, we've never been there before, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, analysis a little light, but no, I'm just excited to get there. I think it's going to be a great circuit to help end the year with at.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm really pumped for it. So big race weekend coming up. Everyone look out for any recaps, any other content that we put out for that. But moving into kind of our next topics, we had some different esports talk that we wanted to get into a little bit. And the one thing that caught my eye that I messaged you about like midweek and threw into our talking points and everything was there was a lot of heat coming out from some people like Thorin and other people in the CS:GO community about the Blast premiere that happened this past weekend with Astralis being essentially a home team in their own country playing and having fans making call outs as a group loudly, like letting players know where people are on the map, where the other team is and everything. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because we haven't seen I feel like you and I haven't seen anything like that since probably like I don't know, like season 6, season 7 of League of Legends, maybe, where at some of the LCS studios or some of the different tournaments and everything, where you have fans like doing the whole like two teams are in their level 1 and they're just in brushes right next to each other and nobody quite knows, but you hear all the fans going oh, and you know the players can hear it, they know
Right.
they know that something is going on and all, and I just really don't like that aspect of like in the esports world, like fans coming into play and all, like, because in some instances, like, I do understand in professional sports that the home crowd comes into play. They give a boost to their team. But like,
Yeah, but with traditional sports, all of the teams are operating with 100% information as to at least where the other players are. They can see the whole field. There's no traditional sport where players are hidden.
right.
A big element of esports is information diffusion, and like information gathering, right?
Yeah.
Most games are about operating within and with fog of war of some kind, correct?
Right. Yeah. And so
Okay.
like in that aspect, I'm like I was thinking about it a little bit and I'm like, well, like teams get home field advantage and all, but also in, say, like,
That's a
well,
spirit thing.
well,
We're dealing
and
with concerns of information
well, yeah, but
that's
also,
breaking the game.
like, I think about it in terms of like Penn State football. A year ago, we played Michigan at home, and the
Yeah.
stadium, the fans, before the first play of the game happened, were so loud and
Hmm.
so like crazy that the players on Michigan's team on the field couldn't hear the quarterback calling to hike the ball, and so they had to call a timeout before the first play even happened because the center who was snapping the ball to the quarterback couldn't hear the quarterback calling for the snap. It was that loud. So like I understand play like things like that happening, but then I thought about it a little further. I'm like, yeah, but like every team has their home games. Every team has their home field
Hmm.
advantage. This
Yep.
is in current esports. Not every team like Astralis, it's not like Astralis gets the home tournament this time, and then next time Navi gets the home tournament, and then next time, like, FaZe gets the home. Like, that's not how this works. And also, I thought about it, and I'm like, you don't have the guy who's in the front row floor seats at an NBA game, like, when the teams are in the huddle, like the coach is drawing up a play. You don't have a guy in the back, like in the fans, like looking over and being like, "Hey, they're running this play. Hey, they're doing that." Like yelling over to the other team what the plan is and everything.
Right.
Like there's not that kind of thing going on, and so I think that's where I find it in this instance and all. Like I've gone through all of these thoughts about it and comparisons and everything, and I really just came to the conclusion for myself that I just think it's really poor sportsmanship from the fans and all to like impact the game like negatively that way. So I wanted to bring that up and kind of pick your brain on it. Like I mean, back in the early days of Korean League of Legends, back in OGN Champions, the Korean players are playing in soundproof booths. They still see the excitement from the crowd. You still see them get excited with a win or with a big play. They're still like animated and everything. And it didn't take away from anything, in my opinion. At the end of the match, they come outside the booth and the crowd's going crazy and everything, and it's like why are we still allowing, and you and I had this conversation I'm sure back then, like why are
Yeah.
we still allowing crowds to impact these things in a negative way that's just not going to add any positive benefit other than like it's only adding criticism and like frustration to people in these situations and tournaments.
Yeah. So in this scenario, my main thing is firstly, I'm going to agree with you on the sportsmanship of the fans. Um, I think that's really shitty that these kids would love to be like, "Oh, dude, like, dude, we totally nailed that call out for Astralis. Like, we totally let them know, dude. Like, okay, then and this is like my real loose point. I'm starting with comedy here, but the you couldn't even be proud of that victory because the players that you claim to be, you know, wanting to win, they couldn't even win on their own merit. You had to fucking help them. So
Mm-hmm.
you're just like a fan of a shitty team that needs help from cheating fans to get them across the finish line. All right, so that's my first point. My second point is the crux of my argument, and you went there, is with the booths. The problem is solved and has been solved already with booths. We've seen we've seen the implications of what happens to these tournaments and these organizers when they don't put players in separate booths, especially from these first person shooter teams and organizations. Now, I'm not trying to talk shit. All of us in Gamer Nation get hyped when we win, when we take somebody down. That guy that just keeps nailing you with headshots. When you finally get that kill, believe me, you want to stand up and yell. But what we know is, and this goes back to your sportsmanship point, what we know is it creates a better game environment when both teams are focused on playing the game to the best of their abilities. Nobody wants to see a game decided by somebody calling Simple's mother fat and he just breaks the fuck down and can't play anymore. Like, that would be terrible. So, like you've been saying, these issues were solved a long time ago with the booze, and they do a really good job. We've seen
not
at
a
Worlds.
very expensive solution either.
No,
it is
it's not.
Very minimal cost in terms of
If you
what
want to
they're talking
have
about.
a live audience, yeah.
Yep.
But we've seen with tournaments, if they're not going to have a live audience, yeah, you can have both teams up on stage. It doesn't matter. There's no, we don't care about competitive integrity like across the thing. That's not what we're worried about. It's the fucking fans. And if you look at this tournament, they have this smart glass. They have some bullshit where so the players can't see out, but there's no sound barrier, and that was obviously the big problem here. Right. So my critique overall is to the organizers. Like, why the fuck would you just not use booths? It shatters the competitive integrity of your whole fucking tournament. Dude, I'm surprised that only happened with Astralis. Dude, no, anybody could have fucked with any team's game by just like, whoa, look at that guy. Like, they, yeah. I am so surprised that it only happened to one team. And if people are calling out the team, man, come on. That, all right, if there's anything to criticize, you criticize in the planning phase. Whatever that smart class bullshit is, get it out of here. Put these players in a booth. No tournament should be decided by somebody like, oh, he's on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, and like and people may say, oh, well, Aaron, Justin, they've got noise canceling headphones. Like, noise canceling, like, from up here, not noise canceling here on the mic.
Right.
I was watching, and you could hear the pickup into the announcers' microphones from like the crowd and everything, like very, very clearly. So I guarantee that noise is going into their microphones and being heard by the entire team. And like, I mean, not even just in terms of this and call-outs and stuff like that. What if a crowd is just too damn loud and people can't hear their teammates calling out next to them?
Right.
Like, what kind of environment do we want in this? Do we want to see the best players, like, playing their best, getting, like... Because I guarantee you, if the players were in booths... You can broadcast through the speaker systems. You can broadcast those players' sounds. There's ways so that the audience can still hear those guys and them getting hype. And like when someone gets that like that ace on the other team and jumps up out of their seat all amped and everything, like
you have a window. You can see that.
You can see it, and there are ways that they can have microphones in the booths that are projected to the audience and everything like. Very easy solutions to anything that people want to say about that stuff. Like, the other team is still, like, if momentum's going the other team's way, your team's probably going to be down a little bit. And, like, you're not losing any of that from the teams not hearing each other across the stage. Like, you're not losing anything if you do that. You're losing a lot potentially by the way that the system is set up now. So I'm just like a little confused as to why they haven't made any of those like just changes, or why they allow these external things to come in. It's frustrating. I really hope that that is something that gets talked about more. I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter as it was going on, and I'm like, that's annoying. Like, just to see that, and now this Blast Premier, the entire integrity of that tournament could have been called into question because, I mean, in this instance, Astralis did not make it to the finals. They got knocked out and everything, even with the crowd intervention trying to help them out.
Yeah.
But say they win the tournament, how many teams are going to be livid with Blast Premier, livid with the organizers and everything?
Yep. That's a Barry Bond size asterisk next to that win.
That is a big asterisk. And like, I just don't think, especially Blast Premier has been like a newer thing in the CSGO world. It's also had other criticisms previously. I don't specifically remember what, but it was on the organizational level, if I remember correctly. Like you're just inviting more of these issues in and more of this criticism in, instead of being like, hey, we're Blast Premier. We bring the best teams in to play the best games in front of the best crowds, and it's all like kosher. Like, just
right. Well, they thought they had it with their, the stage setup that they had, but I mean, just look back literally a month. Where was Simple sitting when he won that major? He was sitting in a fucking booth.
Yep.
So
there you go.
So I'm less worried about like home team advantage, what team it was. Man, that's just lazy organization and not understanding how rowdy these fucking fans get, dude. Yo, they bought a hoodie and drove out to that stadium.
Yeah.
They're gonna get excited about that shit, dude. They've got a hoodie on.
And also just thinking about it, like these are some of the first like events that people are able to go to live and everything in a while. I mean, people are
not just able to. This may be just the first time people are out in God knows how long for crazy.
Yeah, like people are going to be pumped. Like just not considering these things and everything is just frustrating. And so even as someone who doesn't follow extremely closely in the CSGO community and all, I watch when I have it on, when I see it on and everything. Yeah. It's entertaining. I have a good time and it's exciting, but it's not like my realm fully. But seeing that, it just brought me back to those days of League of Legends where I'm like hearing this stuff and you're hearing the crowds like affect those games. And I'm just like, dude, that was like 7 years ago. Like, why have we not moved beyond this? It makes no sense.
Well, the top organizers had, they just didn't. Yeah. And it's not necessarily a concern of CS:GO per se. It's more of just like an esports question overall. Is we want competitive integrity for something that's like already. Like it's got easily pokeable holes, you could say, and that just makes it really worse.
Yeah,
so that's big, unfortunate for Astralis, because it's not like they asked for that kind of backup.
No, definitely not. It like shines a negative light on them unfairly in the situation as well. So
yeah,
but I guess to move towards other esports talk, I know that you had Halo that you wanted to bring up as well, because Halo Infinite has just released. It's big thing in the new esports world. So,
well, the Halo Infinite multiplayer is Halo has been around for a decent bit now. Did you watch any of the games that I sent you? Did you scrub through that at all?
I didn't get a chance.
That's fine. Because I don't want to talk about games or teams or anything. What it was realizing how good we have it with games like Rainbow Six, CS:GO, League of Legends, and what's another good like esport like Dota 2.
Yeah.
The visibility or the ease of visibility on the viewer, we have a lot of information.
Mm.
But I tuned in, I was excited to see competitive Halo, but when I clicked on to watch it, there's no map for a game that, I mean, it's new, right? So unless your viewers have played the game, they would have no idea what those maps look like. There's
Yeah.
no viewer map. So like we don't
That's
have a view of where all of the players are and seeing like the general outline borders of where these players are playing.
no mini map at all.
No mini map at all. Not even like on from a little player cam perspective. So
Gotcha.
that was just like jarring
Well, and
at
also
first.
in terms of the Halo like maps and everything, like CS:GO also you have very distinct visual differences based on the locations of the different areas of the map. You have A site, B site are set up differently. Like even as someone who is and I don't know what kind of like game modes they were playing for these Halo like
Pretty
what.
sure it's capture the flag and domination and stuff.
Gotcha. So like in those
Yeah.
instances, like Halo maps are a lot of like open world with rock walls and like different stuff that's around that is not easily distinguishable from each other. CS:GO has it freaking painted on the walls around the map like little A with an arrow
They
pointing to
do. You're
or
right.
like B pointing to an area, and then you have these
Even if
like
they didn't have the mini map, you would see those visual markers
when
on
you're
the player's
flipping
field of
between
view.
players and all, and like you
Dude, you're
have
right.
those things, you have the kind of
Oh,
silhouettes of
yeah.
players through walls like in those games and everything.
That was
You
another thing. Yeah. Dude,
so not having a mini map or having some sort of distinguishable way to tell, like I played a little bit of Halo way back in the day on like the original Xbox, but
sure.
I
But I'm
have
sure the maps are all different, right?
all
They're
different
they're gonna
and
be totally
like,
new.
but like in general just from my knowledge of Halo, the maps are not always, and I'm not going to say in every map, but not always very easily distinguishable of like where people are, like based on the surroundings.
That's a great point. Yeah. That is a really good point. So, yeah, just using that to say it was tough to have any idea where in reference, because obviously it's a first person thing. So when you're on board with somebody, you're seeing just like their gun and what they're seeing.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was impossible to know where they were in relation to anybody else, where somebody else just was. So that was fucking impossible. Like even for Valorant was the one I was trying to think of. Like we have a mini map for that. We can see exactly where the players are, and most of the time I don't even care what these players are looking at. I just want to see the overall movements of the people
Oh
because like
yeah.
that's just as exciting.
Well, in
So
CS:GO, like when you've got like a 2v1 at the end and someone's
right,
trying to clutch it out or run away and save a gun or something like that, and you just see the little like that's all I'm watching is the mini map. You see the little dots like circling around each other and people ducking this way and
right,
like back and forth and
right.
all. Like that's a huge part of that viewer experience and everything.
Exactly. So a big miss there from Halo. And then another thing, I don't know if they were using like the onboard spectate or whatever, but the camera was just focusing on dead bodies. People would get killed and the cam would just sit and watch like just the legs shake and then it would shift to somebody else. Like I don't think there was a cameraman. There was nobody that was like controlling
I was gonna
what we
ask
were
if there was
seeing.
like a like in CS:GO sometimes they zoom out and have like the overhead and everything from like the ghost
Right.
spectator that's like
Right.
floating kind of, and you can see the area and all. Was it all just like first person views the entire time or?
Everything that I saw. And yeah, I mean, I tuned out pretty quick because, like, as far as like watching an esport and wanting to like understand very quickly what was happening, I couldn't. I
Yeah.
couldn't at all. So I was like, man, fuck this.
Well, and that's as
But
someone like yourself who has been around a lot of different esports for a
I've seen a
long,
lot of
long
fucking
time.
games, dude.
Like for
Yeah.
you to be like, this is too hard to figure out what's going on. I'm out. That's like a problem.
Let me tell you this. Guess I even got invested on on Final Circles in Apex Legends. I've never played that game. I've got no clue. I don't know what's involved, but the game is displayed. The user interface is useful in such a way that I could figure out what was going on in the player's game based on the information that I was given. And so you can easily get invested. I could not with the Halo stream.
Yeah.
So it was weird that they were like focusing on the dead bodies. Like the second somebody gets murked, fucking move on. Like move to the guy that killed him, or so you can see whatever. So the camera focus was terrible. And then it was obvious that the casters were watching the exact same feed that we were. So they were literally just like recapping what we just saw. They had no capability to like set up, say, "Ooh, look at this. We can see this player going."
Yeah.
All they could see was like what somebody was looking at. So the
Uh,
casting was so fucking lazy, and they were always just one step behind.
yeah.
It was wild. I was tuned in. I was literally tuned in for like 10 minutes trying to get a sense of what was going on in the Cloud9 match. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry, Bungie, but this is rough. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's Bungie or whoever the fuck, but yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
That is. Like, and also, like, that is just on a different kind of side of the coin. Like, that's a bad first step into the competitive esports world from
I
Halo.
was
Like,
hoping that was going to be my jumping off point into being like a big Halo fan. Like
yeah,
I wanted to like that
like
was me like, all right, let's get invested. Let's watch this
yeah.
shit.
But
And
if
then it
the
sucked.
announcers can't be like, oh, and he was capping like C, but he got sniped from across the map or something like that. But he's like they're moving into whatever, and like if the casters don't even see like where
They had
everyone
no
is,
clue. They had
that's
no clue.
that is wild to me that
Yeah.
that's how poorly like planned, I guess I would say that is, in terms of like esports
I
have been
mean,
around for a long time, man. StarCraft 2 or StarCraft originally was probably
mhm.
what 25 years ago, something like that was like
I
becoming big, like
I think you're right on,
maybe
yeah.
20 to 25 years ago, and
Yep.
esports have been around for essentially that long now. And so you're just jumping into that with no. Like, I mean, fuck it, man. Halo and Call of Duty are very similar if you're looking at those multiplayer style. Like CDL, the competitive, like, Call of Duty League,
Mm,
like, just, like, take the stuff that you see that they're doing well with spectating, with things like that, and just put it there. Like,
mhm.
you're not going to have someone going, no, 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 you can't have a mini map. You're just copying this other thing. It's like, no, literally every game has like a mini map that you can see what's going on.
Right.
Like, there's no sort of like context for why you wouldn't even have something as simple as that. That's just
Mhm.
bizarre to me.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was the biggest point of like it was impossible to judge like what was happening. All you would see is just like people getting murked. You would just be in first person and just die. The camera focus on where you just died, and then it would be too late to catch action, so it was
They just
bad. It
pan
was
on to
really
the
bad.
next person until they
Yeah,
can.
just people getting you were just first person just getting murked over and over. It was terrible.
Oh,
But yeah,
that's
dude, like
rough.
scrub through that, man. And I
I'm gonna
hope
have
you have a
to.
better experience. But check it out, because yeah, it was like I'm not sure you can monetize this at all. It
Well,
was terrible.
I'm gonna be going into it with a very like open, like I'm gonna try to go into it with a very open mind and be like, okay, let's see, like I want to see if maybe like I get a better feel, or maybe there's things that I noticed that you didn't, or like
Yeah,
whatnot, that
right.
will give us a little difference of perspective. But based on everything you've told me so far, I
It's tough.
can't imagine going in and being like, yo, dude, you're completely wrong. This is so
This
good. This
game
is like,
snaps, brother. This game
like
fucking snaps.
I don't see myself going into it and being like that. So it'll be interesting, but I definitely will have to scrub through. So
It just makes me even more encouraged at what games like CS:GO and Valorant and League and Siege and Call of Duty and Dota, like the international, it just makes me truly understand like what it takes to present a game and how seamless. There's got to be so much work done from the production end to make it feel like a seamless experience and like
yeah,
that we understand the game as presented.
yeah.
So yeah, it just makes me appreciate those games so much more.
I kind of feel bad for the casters too, thinking about that, because like you talking about preparation and all this production value that goes in. I think about all of the different League of Legends casters that we've watched over the years who like clearly put in a ton of time and effort to learn the players, learn play styles, learn like team comps, learn all these different aspects and everything. And like those casters, like I can't even put any of that on them. They were just kind of, it sounds like they were just kind of hung out to dry, and like that looks bad on them, but it literally is nothing
It was
that they
just
can
the tools
do.
that they were given. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it sucks. Dude, they just took the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
They
know,
were like, everyone's pumped about Halo. Let's like get in on the ground level. And they're
dude,
like,
I was
wait.
excited to, man.
They're like, wait, I didn't think it would be like the basement. I thought this was ground level. Like,
Mm-mm. No, and it's
uh,
and it's such a shame. Like I'm not sure how they've done other Halos, but yeah, that one was just tough, real tough.
yeah. Well, this is the first like Halo game that has come out in quite some time. I don't know when the last. Um,
They've been playing Halo 3 competitively forever.
well, I know, but like it's been out. Like Halo 3, that came out in 2007.
Oh, I see what you're
Like,
saying. Before it got like a new title or
yeah,
whatever.
like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
coming
yeah.
in.
I
This is
see.
the first like new Halo thing that's going to bring in new viewers, new like man, a bunch of these kids that are out here in these games that are killing me in
Right,
Warzone weren't even born in 2007. I'm getting murked
right.
by
I see what you're
13
saying.
year olds and they're like
Yeah,
I'm out here and these kids weren't even around September 25th of 2007. I just googled it. That's
gotcha.
when
That's funny.
Halo 3 released. So like they have this opportunity, especially in the world of like Twitch, and like was Justin TV even around back in 2007? Maybe, I
Wow.
don't know. But like it's such a big opportunity, and to kind of come out and flub it like that is that's kind of iffy. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So
And like, yeah, whatever. That's I was gonna say maybe there's like I said, being somebody who hasn't played the game, it was a rough experience. But like maybe if you have a couple hours into it, maybe it's like, oh, it's not that bad. Like the maps are pretty simple, blah blah blah. But just from a casual viewer perspective, and I think that's where a lot of people are going to be coming from. Yeah, it was definitely displeasing. So just
yeah, I'm wondering if
beware.
yeah, I'm curious just based on like that initial tournament and everything, if there are other tournaments that are like in the books that are like being prepared
I'm
to
pretty sure it's all feeding into like leagues and tournaments and shit.
so hopefully they will take the feedback and things like that that they've gotten from this initial one, and they'll say, okay, like we got it out there, We've got the name out. People now know that we're going to be having this competitive like esport and everything, or that we're looking to have this competitive esport. Let's see if we can make these quality of life changes that are going to improve the viewer experience, make everything like higher quality and all. And now that they were like, hey, let's see how many unique viewers are gonna like throw this on and turn it on, and from that basis they can be like, okay, we've got this many people interested, let's invest more into this to be able to create a better viewer experience and a better like just viewership and build that and everything. So I hope that's the case. I don't definitely didn't mean for it to be a shit on Halo like little minute there, but hopefully I just like that is always my hope, because I love esports. I've been around it for a while. It's so entertaining. I've spent countless hours just like enthralled by watching and viewing and cheering and the excitement and everything. And I just want like all of it to be taken and to improve so that they can give the best experience to the people who are watching, because they could end up being someone who's like hasn't played League of Legends in multiple years but still tunes in for the whole LCS season and Worlds, and is like paying attention and following along with the game without even having played it in a long time. Like
right, still being enfranchised.
Yeah, like
they have the IP where they have the possibility to create enfranchised players like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And viewers like that, yeah.
Definitely. So hopefully that is what they can kind of gain from this experience, and moving forward look to improve upon. Who knows what the budget maybe was for production? Like there are a lot of unknown things, but
sure.
But yeah, nonetheless, like hopefully there's like all these things come along and they can just add another quality esport out there for people to pay attention to and enjoy watching and kind of dive in on. So that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But moving on to what would you say, more greener pastures? Yeah, I
greener pastures. Yeah,
fucking
more like positive
yes.
talking points.
That's what I was kind of headed towards. So, and I don't know, this may just be like my Sunday now is F1 and Magic with Death Magic, but nice. Yeah, we were jamming some games on Sunday, and I have the deck list tuned. Well, I added 6 cards going into these games, and they were taking out like just dumb things and putting in what would you call it, like interaction, so ways to like counterspell or like remove things.
And are these proxies that you're putting in, or are these other cards that you're pulling in? Okay, cool.
And that has been such a freeing experience. There was one game, I'm pretty sure it was the second game, I had a winning board state if I had a particular card in my deck, and I did not have the card, but realizing it would actually be a linchpin and an important piece, I'm able to literally... So you didn't
have the card in your deck, or you didn't have the card in your hand?
Both. Technically,
well, yeah, like, but it was the
but not in your deck.
Wasn't in the deck, so it couldn't be in your hand. Gotcha.
You got it.
Yeah.
So it's such a freeing feeling to just be like, well, okay, that's something you can fix very easily, and just turn on your printer, print out a copy, slide it in, because none of the players that you care about care. So then the next game, you have the tools, that you should have probably at the beginning. So the use of proxies and playing with the proper weapons and tools has actually allowed like better gameplay and better understanding of the deck and how the play patterns go, because I'm not like drawing into just like dead cards or cards that I don't need, where I'm like, oh, this should be something else. I wish this was better, instead of just like letting my budget and time restrict me. It's just like, no, what are the most optimal cards? Okay, I'll put them in here.
All right, so
That's been such a freeing feeling. Go ahead.
I have to ask a little bit. So because I know you've put a lot of time into Magic, learning things. You've looked at all sorts of different cards from different decks all over the years, and what are this and that people have been playing that are really like strong and everything. Like
Yeah.
this instance, like you said, you're going through, you're playing a game, and you're like, oh shit, like this card. Like, did it just pop into your mind in a specific card, or were you like, okay, I'm just missing X component. Like, I just need some sort of, like, scry into this deck that, like, could do this. And then you research and you're like, okay, what's the best, like, thing for this? And then you do that. Or are you sitting there and you're like, fuck, this is a perfect situation for the Dark Wizard or like whatever and you're like, that just like, I'm gonna go and find that card. Like, how do you go about doing that and like tuning your deck with proxies? Because these are cards that you may have potentially not seen before that you're seeking out, or that you have not physically seen, but maybe you've seen on forums, on other people's things. Like, how do you usually pick those pieces to fill in as proxies? Because it's not just like, well, this is what I got, so like slotting in the best thing. You're like, of all the Magic the Gathering cards that have been printed since 1994 or whatever, like,
yeah, like
this
big
is
time opens the pull up.
Yeah, like how do you do that? I'm curious.
So for this specific scenario, so I'm pretty sure it was game 2 where I said I had a winning board state, and if I had X specific card, it would have actually won me the game. So in that scenario, I needed a particular card, and that's Cloudstone Curio.
Okay.
So in that moment, I knew the card that I needed, but it was something that previously when I've seen it, I know about the combos, people use it for X, Y, and Z, but because of the price tag, it's not something that I thought of as something that I would ever buy. Like, oh, that's cool, but not in my price range. But in the moment now, because I had already ripped off the Proxy Virgin Band-Aid, it just like it was as though the floodgates were open in the moment where I knew the bit of information, but because of previous like limitations, I wouldn't have thought of it, but in the moment, I definitely thought of it. I was like, oh, okay, that's why they like this card. When I looked at other Burgie lists, that card was in there, and it clicked when I looked at my board state and was like, this is fucking why, because you can win with it.
Yeah, it may not be something that you realize when you're just like skimming through someone's like deck list, but then when you're in the okay, that makes more sense. And so like obviously,
so it was a specific effect that I needed. Yeah, but the other half of that question is, but what if it's just like general? Oh, you're just looking for a scry effect or a rebuy something from the graveyard, whatever it is. In those scenarios, I'll just think of, okay, I need this effect. I need a board wipe in black. Okay, what's available? What do I have? Okay, cool, we can use these things. Or I need card draw in blue-green. Okay, cool, these are my options. That is another way to go. But in this one specifically, it was I need that card. And it wasn't in there. So I printed one out, put it in the deck, and then the next time around, I just get to use it. There's no real money invested, no time wasted. I don't have to be like, all right, guys, well, it'll be here in 3 weeks. It's just like, bam, now I can play with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so tuning in that way is actually kind of hard, though, because when you are open to all of the cards, there's like, just the possibilities become more. But when tuning for those tables of like playing to win and playing fast cards that help you win, there's a small set of cards that are going to do the thing that you want. So it's like those are the ones that are constantly talked about and you just see on lists over and over and over because everybody are playing those cheap effects.
Yeah, and I can imagine also like in the like Commander community and everything, since a commander has to be like a legendary creature, or now I guess a legendary pair,
Yeah,
with some
with the
decks and
partners.
everything,
Yep.
that you have a much more finite amount of decks that can actually be played, and of course within that, more
You got it.
finite amount of decks that are being consistently played because they are of a certain quality and the effects of the legendary creatures and all. So you can definitely like skim through probably like 350 lists of Burgie decks that you're going through. I mean, probably tons more, but like you can just skim through decks and be like, okay, like this is generally what I've got. Oh, like there's
Right.
the, like, and you know, especially I'm guessing now paring down your cards and getting rid of junk
What
that you
really
had
is
basically,
important.
like it's very much more distinct in your mind of like what cards you have in your deck. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
skimming those lists, you're just like check, 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 check. Nope. Check, 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 check,
Yep.
check. Like that kind of thing. So
And the ones that are off become glaring. It's like, oh, okay, that effect, okay, that should be this or whatever it is.
yeah.
But
So
I'll tell you this, you may not know this. Um, there is what's known as the CEDH deck list database. So the community has agreed upon the best 99 cards for any given commander.
wow.
And there's a couple variations, but if you go onto these discords and you play on let's say you're on the mental misplay discord and you want to, have a play day, you can go in and say my this deck that I'm playing is the database deck list. You can play the exact deck that the community agrees upon. If you're playing Urza, this is the best way to play Urza. We thought about all 99 slots, and we believe that this is the best way and the winningest way to put Urza together.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
there are a percentage of CEDH players that only want to play against decks that are on the database. Card for card, they want to play against that list.
To see if they can beat the
And,
best kind of thing.
oh yeah, that's what the whole CEDH community is about. So, what's interesting is it's the the shifting of these deck lists and understanding where the meta's going and whatever. But moreover, these players want to play against the commander, the list, and the player, not against your wallet. And that's why the proxies are so allowed, because
Yeah.
they want to play with time twisters. They want to play with Mox Diamonds, because if you're not, then you're not bringing a gun to the gunfight. You're bringing a knife to the gunfight.
Gotcha.
Everybody in the
Okay.
CDH community is saying, hey, we're having a gunfight, bring a gun.
And so, give me real quick just what does CEDH stand for? Because obviously, there's the Commander community that is a part of the Magic the Gathering community. So, what is
Yep.
CEDH?
So CEDH stands for Competitive Elder Dragon Highlander. Elder
That's
Dragon
right.
Highlander
I know
was
you've
the
said that before,
first.
but it wasn't like clicking.
Yeah. That was the term of love that the original creators of Commander came up with. That's their name, EDH, Elder Dragon Highlander. But over time it's shifted to Commander.
Gotcha.
CEDH is just the competitive Commander community.
Okay, so in
Yeah.
that, yeah, that makes sense since it is the competitive community that it's like you are, yeah, you want to see the best cards, the best like because you that's what you're bringing too. So,
Exactly.
um, okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense and everything. In terms of like what people are bringing, I don't think it it should have, but it didn't click in my mind until like we were talking that
Sure.
there is a like meta for
Yeah.
like the
Big
decks and
time.
everything too. Like obviously I knew that there are like some cards that are just automatically better than other cards and things like that. But yeah, thinking about it that way, of course, like it's easy in say Warzone. there's a meta because there's maybe, I don't know, 90 guns total that you can be using, and
Yep.
each gun only has like the ability to have 5 attachments on it. So you're looking at one, which gun's the best, and then with that gun, which 5 attachments make that gun just better in like
More
kill
damage,
time,
longer range.
accuracy, range, those things. So that's such a small set comparatively. In my mind, I think it was that there are just so many cards out there that, like, hey, maybe someone has a completely like what would seem like a whack Burgie deck that's like out there that's like got no cards off that main list, but it's played in a way that the win conditions are very tuned to that deck because there are so many cards out there to have a different play style or whatnot for it.
Right.
I think I was thinking of it in that way, just like from
Gotcha.
a volume perspective.
Right.
But of course, there still has to be some sort of like meta, what is the best way to win in terms of turns, in terms of like pulling cards, in terms of like whatever your win conditions are. So that makes a lot of sense.
So I guess ultimately, to answer your first question about tuning, is when looking specifically at my Burgie deck, I'm doing my best to get it as close to the database deck list as I can.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm only a couple cards off.
Gotcha. And if
Which
you really
is
wanted to, you can proxy them in and boom.
right,
Yeah.
right. But the list that I have, I don't think anybody in the CDH community would be unhappy to play against it.
Gotcha.
And that, so when I say tuning, I was going in the direction of the database.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
that's been super fun.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you got 3 games in on Sunday.
Yeah.
You ended up with did you get any wins with the Burgie deck in that, or were
Big
like
0-3, my friend.
but
Dude, it's tough.
dude, I believe it. Like
Yeah.
especially you just kind of jumping into the deep end of this kind of gameplay
Right.
has to be an adjustment mentally from like what you were doing and everything, and also of course still finding those moments like you had in the second game where you're like, fuck man, like if this
Right.
card was here, then boom, like
It would have been then I would have been 1 and 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the fun thing is just learning how to pilot the decks, and I think it's a lot of fun just like staying with the same commander and basically just like running game after game with it, because you just see all the different play patterns. You'll see cards that you didn't see and interact in different ways. But yeah, so it's been it was really fun
nice. Well,
on Sunday. We didn't get any games in during the week, but yeah, it's not terrible.
happens. But shout out to Death Magic and the other people that you're playing with out there. That's awesome.
Homies, yeah.
I'm glad that you've got like a little group that you can hop in and everything and get some games in more frequently and consistently and all. That sound like a good group of people to be jumping in and playing games with. So
Yeah, it's been dope. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for the Magic talk. I'm happy we got into a little bit of like the meta and how the community kind of talks about the decks and whatever. So that was really interesting. Would you like to get into the flavor of the week, my guy?
I definitely would. So I'll just jump in with probably the like more general or like more expected thing after Thanksgiving week is of course the food. I made mac and cheese to take to my family's Thanksgiving and all, and
Yep.
I've done this periodically where I've tried like to like my core recipe that I've always made has Velveeta in it, and obviously Velveeta is like, I don't know what it is, but it's some sort of cheese product. But it tastes really damn good, and it's really easy to make. But for Thanksgiving, I decided to go be a little extra and all, and so I did a 6 cheese like mac and cheese. I had cream cheese, cheddar, Colby Jack, which of course is 2 cheeses, mozzarella. I had cream cheese in it, and like all of this stuff just thrown together, shredded up, like did a really, really nice job with it, and it turned out really well and had a nice solid taste to it. So that was a little outside of my typical like I could probably make my normal mac and cheese with Velveeta with my eyes closed. It's like a very simple recipe. It literally is like 4 things. It's noodles, whipping cream, Velveeta, and mozzarella. Like that's it. I need 4 things to make it. And so like diving in and being a little extra with it was kind of fun. And it turned out really well. Alongside of that, I had 2 different servings of my favorite kind of pie. So I had apple pie with like a apple crumble kind of crust top at my parents' place. Then I had more apple pie with more of the traditional like pie crust at Colleen's family's. So I got to enjoy my favorite like Thanksgiving dessert. I'm not a big pumpkin pie person, which is probably like, I don't know, people might be disappointed. I don't know. Whatever, you like what you like. I like apple pie.
People do like a pumpkin though, you're right.
I like pumpkin other things, but pumpkin pie, it's just not my thing. So,
fair enough.
But yeah, so those were my foods for the flavor of the week.
Nice.
For my music, today actually came out like the Spotify Wrapped that I had mentioned, where it puts all your year together with like your top songs and everything. And so like I ended up being in the top 3 percentile for listening to Mac Miller, because I just jam out to him.
Dude, you should get a plaque, man. Dude, they should literally mail you something at this point.
It's fun. It's like always interesting to see that for myself, because like I just love jamming to his music, and he has a bunch of different styles depending on the vibe. So that was cool. Nice. But I started like dabbling into the top 100 songs that they threw together for me, and it's got like a very wide variety, but it's cool kind of listening to some of that stuff and like seeing the different things I've listened to throughout the year, and also finally getting like, so I had put together a playlist of what I called like experimental rap that had a lot of like, it was almost like metal mixed with rap, like real aggressive, real like old Hobson type vibes, but with a little more like fine tuning to the production and everything, not as raw. And so apparently that music style is called dark trap music, which I didn't know it had a name. And since that's like typically my kind of workout type music that just gets me like amped up and everything, it was kind of
deep in that dark trap.
It was just funny to, well, I mean, like my other music, like I told you back in the day, my running playlist in college was like Hobson, old school Eminem, Tech Nine, like real. I remember one time we're playing League, and I was like telling you and Ian that, and Ian just goes, "Bro, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. It just makes me run faster," kind of thing. So I've always like that like metal, like heavier music has always been kind of my workout vibe. So it was just like, it was kind of cool to actually have like a name for that now. Because
dark trap.
I had no idea what the actual like genre technically was. And then for my show, this one, I like was thinking about it. I'm like, that's kind of gotta be it. But Colleen, like, she watches sports with me all the time and everything. And so I was like, like when we're hanging out watching TV and everything, like we'll watch movies that each other wants to watch, but like just casual TV, I'm like, we can watch stuff that like you like are like that you enjoy or entertained by too and everything. And so she put on this show called Selling Sunset, and in
Mm-hmm.
my mind I was like, oh, this is gonna be like House Hunters or some other HGTV show where they're like
No, it's
out
worse.
there seeing all these like beautiful homes and everything that are just like in LA, and like it's just
Mm-hmm.
like you get to like same kind of thing. Absolutely not. Straight up just like fun trash TV, and by fun I just love shit talking all the
Mm-hmm.
people on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny to like go through and watch an episode and just be like, dear God, what is wrong with these people? Or like, why? I literally, there's been multiple times where I'm like, there would be a lot less drama if these people just talk to each other about their problems. And then I'm like, well, I guess then the show wouldn't be as entertaining. So like, keep doing what you're doing.
Exactly. Right. Holy
Um,
shit, that's funny.
but yeah, so I got some good entertainment over the past like week or two of tuning into some of that with her and just kind of like making fun of the like people who are in it and all. And fortunately, Colleen likes my little digs that I throw in there, and there adds a little bit of spice to it. So
Yeah, jeez, man.
yeah.
Selling Sunset, that is the American dream right there.
Boom, exactly. $400,000 commissions on houses that they're selling. Like, man, let me just sell one of them.
Dude, but they're putting those advances just like straight into their breast or their butt, like
I
whatever,
know.
man.
The one girl like just sold French Montana's house, or not just sold, but on the show like sold French Montana's house and everything, and I was just
Right.
like, it's like this house is just fucking crazy. I'm like this whole all of it just like blows my mind because I'm just like it's so insanely out of even my concept of like a dream house or something like that,
Right.
that I'm
Right.
like thinking so functionally and like for my dream house of like what would be within the realm of possibilities, and they're out
Mm-hmm.
here with like a river running through the living room into the
Oh
infinity
yeah.
pool, and I'm like, what the fuck, that's a thing. Like,
Oh, it's
so
all a thing. If you can think of it, somebody will put it in a house for you.
yeah, so that's been pretty entertaining watching that.
Hell yeah.
It's kind of nice being able to like jump into some of the like stuff that Colleen watches that is just like pure entertainment that I can just
Mhm.
be like, I'm just gonna like, I don't have to think. I don't have. It's not a complex movie.
I'm not going to be
Like
asked about what I think about this
like
later. I don't have to
yeah.
analyze it.
like
Yeah.
we like we watched Avatar, the Blue People movie this past week, and like
Yep.
watching through that, it's a long movie. There's so many like fine like little details and everything that kind of you have to pick up on and pay attention to and all. And like
Unless you've
for
seen Pocahontas, then you're set.
fair, but but watching something like that, like Selling Sunset, I'm just like, I can just like turn my brain off and laugh at like the like insanity that this
Yeah,
is
there's
to
no
me.
canon. There's
Just
no
like
like. Yeah, that's funny.
boom, just entertainment. So I definitely get why people enjoy it, and so that's been kind of fun to watch, and also fun to make fun of a little bit. So,
Hell yeah, that's
but
that's awesome.
yeah, but for this past week, what have you been listening to, chewing on,
And
seeing,
watching.
watching?
Oh man, you were so close to that being
I
like
know.
nice and smooth.
Maybe
Damn,
next
dude.
time.
That just like took a header into the diving board, man.
It did.
Anyway, so I'll start where you left off. So me and Sarah rewatched the first two episodes of The Witcher, getting
Ooh.
prepped for season two.
Wait,
Um,
is that the Like the real life action one or
Yeah,
the
with Henry
cartoon one?
Cavill.
Okay,
The one with Henry Cavill, yeah.
gotcha.
So
Because
based
there's
on the books, based on the game.
yeah, I saw that there was like a
Mm,
cartoon one that had come out as well,
sure.
or not cartoon, or animated one of some
Animated,
sort.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
not a cartoon, dude. It's an animation.
yeah, yeah, whatever.
It's not a doll, dude. It's an action figure, bro.
Yeah. So Witcher, you getting
Yeah,
into?
yeah. Just watching the first two episodes of The Witcher. We're going back through just so we can be all caught up for season two. So that's a really fun show. And if you haven't watched it before, understand that because it's like not that easy to pick up on. There's like different timelines,
Mm,
all like presented quickly without much explanation. So that was
yeah.
tough the first time around, but once you know that, it's kind of
I
really
remember you
enjoyable.
telling me that at one point. I forget if it was on the podcast or like just like
Yeah,
while we were talking about whatever. So that's
just a friendly tip there.
nice. Good advice.
Yeah. So Witcher season two coming up. Look forward to that. And then my food. Yeah, Thanksgiving dinner is great, but Sarah brought home a space cake, which I'm pretty sure is just a chocolate Rice Krispie,
Ooh.
right?
Okay.
And I think maybe it has like caramel in it too. I'm not 100% sure. Definitely not healthy for you, but very, very tasty as a nice like little crunchy treat. I don't think I've had one of those in years, so I have a feeling the taste was more nostalgia than it was chocolate Rice Krispie, but it was amazing.
Why do we add like outer space terms to like chocolate desserts? Like we've got moon pies, space cakes, cosmic
Because the phrase
brownies,
out of this world exists. People are like, dude, these brownies are out of this world, man. Let's call
cosmic
them space.
brownies,
Yeah, exactly.
space cake. I was thinking
Totally
about it. I'm just
easy.
like, all the space themed like snacks are all like chocolate involved. I mean, also a lot of just like dessert in general has chocolate, but still.
Right. But even like Dippin' Dots, the best dessert ever, is like space themed. It's like the ice cream of the future. It'll all be little circles. Like, okay. So yeah, there's something weird about space in the future and whatever for desserts, but the space cakes tasted just as good as my 12 little year old mouth remembers.
Nice, that's
Um,
awesome.
so that was fun. And then music, nothing new. I'm still really stuck on Amine, Vince Staples, and Freddie Gibbs. But just an update. I am to the G's in my music. I'm like really sliding through. It's fun to just like delete stuff. There's a couple people who just didn't age that well, let's just say. So that's always fun. But yeah, just listening to my old collection, some of the new stuff. But yeah, that has been my week. That has been my flavor of the week. But sir, I would just like to comment on your flavor of the week. I remember you talking about the mac and cheese. You test it with Colleen and her friends? You were talking about testing the mixture.
I had done a little bit of like testing with it and all, but
Yep.
like that, like with some
This was the
added.
first true outing of it.
Yeah, this was the
That's
first true
exciting.
outing, and and it was actually nice. My sister-in-law messaged me, well, like in our sibling group, like message that we have and
Yeah,
everything, and was like, "Hey, what all did you put in that mac and cheese?"
gotta
And so
love.
like I ran through the general thing. Like I didn't have like measurements of different things. I just kind of eyeballed a lot of stuff, but in
Sure.
terms of like quantity of cheeses and whole whipping cream and like whatever, because I've just done it enough times that I
Right.
just can kind of do that. But it was well received, and people enjoyed it. So it was a good first outing, and it was fun to kind of play around and like mess around with it a little bit. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, that has been our flavor of the week. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here, Aaron?
No, I think that kind of covers everything we're looking to. As
Great.
always, of course, You can find us all over the place for podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Looking out for you all to be our number one listener, like Shane was this year out there for the Tall and Short of It podcast on Spotify. Colleen, you got to step it up. I love you, but but Shane out there,
Shane, number one listener,
number one listener. You can find us there, Anchor, Google Podcasts. Of course, we're on YouTube as well if you want to see our smiling faces. Hit us up on Twitter, Tall and Short of One, the number one. We're looking forward to continuing to just put out content, interact with everyone, have a blast with you guys. But that's all I got, Justin.
Let us just say a big thank you to the listeners. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us today, this evening, whenever you're listening. Just a big thank you from everyone here at the Tall and Short of It podcast. That's been another episode, everyone. Peace out.
Later.